self-esteem, knowing oneself, means that I have to recognize my defects so that I can be able to correct them. I have to recognize my talents. I have to recognize my abilities so that I can capitalize them and use them well. Now, you might say, well, obviously every person is going to want to know what his strengths and his abilities are. That's what makes the person feel good. Well, I wish it were as simple as all that. But there is a complication there. And the complication, I think, can be best understood with an example of a case that I had of a young woman who was 24 years old, and she was admitted to the hospital for detoxification from alcohol, although she at first denied that she drank that much. Well, the first day that she was in the hospital, she asked whether she might have psychological tests. I said, well, why do you want psychological tests? She says, I'm afraid I might have gotten brain damage from drinking. I said, look, my dear, don't worry about it. You don't have brain damage. Well, the next day, she came up to me and she said, could I have an electroencephalogram, a brainwave test? I said, what do you want an electroencephalogram for? Well, I'm afraid I might have had brain damage from drinking. I said, I thought I told you yesterday not to worry about it. You don't have brain damage. Well, the next day she came up to me whether she can have a CAT scan of the brain. So what do you want a CAT scan of the brain for? Well, I thought I might have brain damage from drinking. Well, I began to be curious as why is she so concerned about brain damage when it's obvious that she doesn't have it? So I sat down and talked with her a little bit, and then it became very evident. She's looking for a way out of responsibilities. And if she could get a diagnosis of brain damage, although it's a devastating diagnosis, she would now be able to tell her family, don't pressure me about getting sober. I don't have the ability to do it. Don't you understand? I'm brain damaged. Right? What, you want me to go to college? I can't learn anything. I'm ineducable. Don't you understand? I'm brain damaged. Right? You expect me to hold a responsible job? I can't hold a job. I'm brain damaged. So the diagnosis of brain damage, again, as devastating as it would have been a perfect out to her for her to lift the responsibilities that she wanted to avoid. Now that may sound like an extreme case, but in more subtle ways, it can happen to many people who could recognize, if they recognize the talents they have, they would feel an obligation to live up to them. And it's so much easier to ignore them and to just float along and be content.